Welcome back, adventurers! This is part 2 of our Let's Learn DC20 series, where we are breaking down the rules into bite-sized chunks. If you haven't seen the first episode, I recommend you check it out. We covered the core attributes of DC20, but if you're already familiar with that, then let's crack on with today's lesson, where we will be covering skills, trades, languages, and mastery. That might sound like a lot, but it does all tie together very nicely. Without further ado, let's learn. What are skills? Well, they're representations of a creature's abilities to perform certain activities. In the last video, I mentioned that when a PC tries to do something that may pose some sort of a challenge, the GM might ask them to make a roll of a dice to decide the outcome. That's where skills come in. They provide a bonus that you can add on to your rolls of the dice to try and get a better outcome. For example, if a player tries to lift a heavy boulder, they could add their bonus from their athletics skill. A player trying to haggle the price at a shop could add their bonus from their influence skill. There are quite a few skills in DC20, 17 in fact, and each skill is governed by an attribute: might, agility, charisma, intelligence, and prime. Let's take a closer look at each skill and what they might be used for, starting with the might skill. Athletics covers anything that requires physical prowess, like attempting to climb on a tricky surface and hang on, trying to swim in treacherous waters, jumping beyond your normal distance, and getting in or out of a grapple. Intimidation. This skill covers your attempts to influence creatures' behaviors using threatening methods. You might try scaring someone with a threat of violence, or displaying a feat of your strength to intimidate the creatures around you. Moving to the agility skills, we have acrobatics. This covers a range of activities that require some flexibility, nimbleness, or balance. Maybe you're trying to perform a stunt like a backflip or a dive, maybe even aerial maneuvers. You might attempt to weasel your way out of a grapple using your flexibility, or try and maintain your balance on a slippery surface. Trickery is a skill for non-verbal means of deceiving others. You might try sleight of hand. Think pickpocketing and card tricks. You might attempt to forge a document, conceal objects, perhaps up your sleeve or on someone else, and even deploying and disarming traps where a steady hand might be required. The stealth skill covers attempts to avoid detection. Perhaps you are sneaking quietly in the shadows, or attempting to find a hiding spot where a creature can't see you. Now we're on to the intelligence skills, and this is probably the largest section of skills. Investigation, your ability to search the surroundings for things that might not be readily observable, using clues to find secrets that may lead to discoveries, or deducing something's function, like a hidden trap. Investigation also covers your ability to research and analyze information, and uncover hidden knowledge from books and scrolls. Medicine is used for anything that would require medical knowledge and application, like treating a wound and stabilizing a wounded creature, diagnosing the cause of an injury, poison, or disease, and even when determining the cause of death using forensics. Survival covers any activity that's required for surviving in the wilds. Useful when foraging or tracking down a creature, food source, or water supply. Hunting and harvesting materials from a slain creature, like skinning the pelt or extracting a poison, and attempting to navigate through uncharted or unfamiliar territories.
I'm inside one of the inching down oil tanks.
The intelligence skills are special, as it's the only one with a subcategory of skills, called knowledge. These skills represent your characters having, well, knowledge in a certain area, either from study or experience. One reason that these skills are special is that you can create a custom knowledge skill if you wanted your character to have a more specific field of study. There is another thing that makes them special, but we'll get into that in the mastery section. Let's take a look at the knowledge skills that are already provided for us. Arcana covers knowledge of arcane magics such as spells, enchanted items, glyphs, creature types of magical or alchemical origins such as constructs, monstrosities, and oozes, and the planes of existence, and the things that might inhabit them. History covers knowledge of historical events and figures, creatures such as humanoids, giants, and dragons, and knowledge of lost civilizations, kingdoms, and legends. Nature covers knowledge of elemental magics such as
water, Earth, fire, air.
Will I do that bit every time? Yes. Yes, I will. And also knowledge of creatures such as elementals, fae, plants, and beasts. Occultism covers knowledge of the dark arts, unholy magic, and forbidden knowledge, as well as knowledge of creatures such as aberrations, fiends, and undead, as well as the practices of cults and how to identify their presence. And finally, there's religion, which covers knowledge of holy magic, relics, auras, and symbols. Additionally, creatures such as deities, celestials, and angels, as well as religious rites, prayers, and practices. Time for the charisma skills. The animal skill covers any interaction with animals, including soothing a beast or trying to tame an animal and teach it a new trick. Insight is your ability to discern someone's intentions, whether through studying their body language or trying to read their vibe.
I can't tell you specifics, but I can tell you vibes. I know vibes.
It can be used to determine if a creature's being honest, deceptive, or trying to hide something, and is useful for seeing through threats and bluffs. Influence is used when trying to manipulate a creature's behavior and actions by attempting to convince them with truths or lies, misleading a creature with false claims and promises you don't intend to keep, inspiring someone into action with a speech, or perhaps just attempting to negotiate for something mutually beneficial. We're nearly at the end of the skills, with just one more skill remaining under Prime. Awareness. This is your ability to find and detect creatures and objects using your senses. You might be able to see something that's been overlooked, listen into a conversation, or hear the sound of approaching footsteps. Perhaps you'll smell a strange or familiar scent. It might lead you to a creature, or a freshly baked pie.
Did somebody say pie?
Whew. Those are the skills in DC20. The use of these skills aren't limited to the examples I've given. If you feel that a skill might apply in a situation, go ahead and use it. Next up is trades. They represent your ability with certain tools and professions. Someone who wants to brew a potion might use alchemy, and someone who wants to pick a lock might use tinkering. Every trade is tied to an attribute, however, it's possible to use trades with a different attribute. For example, theater is normally related to charisma by perhaps singing a song.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've been waiting for.
But let's say you want to perform a fast-paced dance. Then your theater trade would relate to agility in this situation. Trades also usually have a type of tool that's needed when they're used. I'm going to run through all the trades. Trades are broken up into categories, so let's kick things off with the Artistry Trades. Illustration. The ability to use paints and ink to write and create art. Uses calligrapher's supplies and agility. Musician. Your ability to use a musical instrument to perform music musically. Uses musicians' instruments and agility or charisma. Theater. The performing arts. Anything from acting, singing, juggling, even joke-telling. The only trade without a tool, and uses charisma. Next up, we have the Subterfuge Trades. Disguise. Your skill at altering someone's appearance with makeup and prosthetics. Uses disguise supplies and agility or charisma. Cryptography. Your ability to encode and decode messages. Uses cryptographer's tools and intelligence. Gaming. Your skill at playing games and gambling, typically with dice and cards. Uses a gaming set and intelligence or charisma. Moving on to the crafting trades. Alchemy. The practice of brewing potions, identifying potion effects, and transmuting elements. Uses alchemist supplies and either intelligence or agility. Blacksmithing. Smelt and shape metals into all kinds of things, from nails to weapons. Uses blacksmith's tools and might. Glass blowing. Blow molten glass into all kinds of shapes, from cups to windows. It uses glassblower's tools and agility or might. Herbalism. The practice of mixing plants into all types of concoctions, from teas to healing ointments and poisons. Uses herbalism supplies and intelligence. Jeweler. Craft beautiful and intricate jewelry. Identify gems, their value, and if they're magical. Uses jeweler's tools and agility. Leatherworking. Turn animal skins into leather, and turn that leather into useful items, perhaps clothing or weapon sheaths. Uses leatherworker's tools and agility. Sculpting. Shape all manner of materials like clay, wood, and even bones into tools, simple weapons, or sculptures. Uses sculptor's tools and agility. Tinkering, the trade that covers all manner of tinkering, from making repairs, building clockwork devices, and probably most importantly, picking locks. Uses tinkerer's tools and agility or intelligence. Weaving, create woven objects like cloth and tapestries. Uses weaver's tools and agility. The last section of trades are the services. Cartography, the practice of creating and reading maps. Uses cartographer's tools and intelligence or agility. Carpentry, measure and cut up wood to create structures ranging from a bridge to a ship. Uses carpenter's tools and agility or might. Cooking, you can cook things. Uses cooking utensils and agility or intelligence.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Brewing, you can make alcohol, so if your party ever turns up empty-handed to a party, you've got them covered. Uses brewer's supplies and agility or intelligence. Masonry, you know a lot about stone and how to make things out of them, like buildings, furnaces, and larger structures. Uses mason's tools and might. Finally, there's vehicles. Your skill at operating vehicles, whether traveling by land, sea, or air. Uses vehicles and agility, intelligence, or might. Whew, need to breathe. That's it for the long lists, because we're moving on to languages, where we find that they're not actually fully in the alpha yet. You'll see what I mean when we get to the mastery section. We're coming to the end now with only one more part to cover. I want to take a moment to thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you're feeling rather spicy, maybe even subscribe. So we know that skills and trades offer us a bonus to our D20 rolls, but what actually is the bonus? Well, your bonus is equal to your modifier in your attribute and your mastery bonus, if any. Now let's take a closer look at what mastery actually is. It represents your training in a particular skill or trade. You can gain mastery in a skill even if the corresponding attribute is low. After all, just because a character isn't naturally intelligent doesn't mean that they couldn't study history. There are 4 types of masteries, and they are skill mastery, trade mastery, language mastery, and combat mastery. And you can gain masteries at character creation, at certain player levels, from your class, class features, subclass features, ancestry traits, and talents. Don't worry about all the unfamiliar words, we'll cover those later in the series. Let's take a look at the skill and trade masteries, as they're largely the same. Each level of mastery has a name: Novice, Adept, Expert, Master, and Grand Master. Each level adds a +2 bonus to your rolls. At Novice, you'll have a +2, and at Grandmaster, a +10. Pop quiz time. You're trying to sneak past a guard, you have a +2 in your agility, and you're an expert at stealth. The DM asks you to roll a stealth check. What is the total bonus you'll add to your D20 roll? I'll wait. Time's up. You would add +2 from your agility, a +6 from being an expert at stealth, for a total of +8. One thing to know about mastery is that your total mastery level is capped depending on your player level, much like your attributes. In fact, both caps increase at the same level. There's also something called expertise. You can gain expertise from a few sources. It increases your mastery level and increases the cap beyond what's normally possible. You could only increase the cap of a skill 3 times, for a total mastery level of 8, or a +16 bonus. That's huge. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that there was something special about the knowledge skills. Well, whenever you spend a skill point on a knowledge skill, you gain a bonus point to spend on the same skill or another knowledge skill, as long as you don't go over your cap. A buy one, get one free.
You buy one, you get one free. I said you buy one, you get one free.
The main difference between skill masteries and trade masteries is what level you gain the points you need to increase them, and that some trade skills might only be usable if you have the right tool and at least 1 level of mastery. Moving on to the language masteries, this is a fun one. The level of masteries range from 0 to 3, and each level represents how well you can speak and understand a given language. At 0, you can't understand or communicate at all. At 1, your mastery is limited, and you could only kind of understand the language. At 2, you have an elementary understanding. You can now communicate, but you'll have disadvantage on any social checks when using that language. And at 3, you're considered fluent, and can communicate just fine. Language masteries don't have a cap, so you can become fluent in a language as soon as you have enough points to spend on it. You're always fluent in a language called Common, which most civilized creatures will be able to speak. Trades and languages also share mastery points, so whenever you get a trade or language point, you can spend it on either option. Lastly, we have Combat Mastery, and this is very different from the others. It affects most roles related to combat, and is meant to represent your overall experience. Combat Mastery is the only mastery that you don't need to invest in to increase. It goes up automatically as you level. Here's the formula for Combat Mastery. As you can see, it's just equal to half your level rounded up. Effectively, this just means that your Combat Mastery increases by 1 every odd level. You can apply Combat Mastery to a variety of things, such as weapons, shields, armor, spellcasting, attribute saves, and your save DC. When you first create a character at level 1, depending on what class you pick, will determine what combat masteries you have, in regards to weapons, shields, armor, and spellcasting. For example, wizards will only get combat mastery in light weapons, light armor, and spellcasting, whereas fighters get combat mastery on all weapons, armor, and shields. When it comes to attribute saves, which is how well you can resist effects, at level 1, you can pick 2 attributes that you want to add your combat mastery to when you make a save. For your save DC, which is how hard it is for other creatures to resist your effects, the formula is up on the screen now. Your save DC is equal to 8 plus your prime modifier plus your combat mastery. Finally, to wrap up this video, here's what happens if you attempt to do or use something, but you're lacking combat mastery. When using a weapon, simply don't add your combat mastery to attack rolls. Wielding a shield, all your attacks and spells will have disadvantage. Wearing armor, your action points are reduced by 2 down from 4. Spellcasting, you just don't add your combat mastery. The same with saves. And your save DC always benefits from your combat mastery. And that's it for today. We learned all about the different skills and trades, as well as what mastery is and how it works. Next time, we'll be learning about checks and saves. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button, or save the Let's Learn DC20 playlist so you don't miss out. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments what skills and trades you would like to master in real life. And as always, consume more content. Consume. 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 Bye.